Hi folks, I want to walk you through how to set up your electronic portfolio. So I'm currently in this tab over here that says Final Portfolio due 4/28. And you have three items here. You have a model for setting up the electronic portfolio, you have the criteria, and then you have the main teaching standards given to you once again here, okay? So let's look through each one of these. First of all, the site that probably is the best to use is Google Sites because you can secure it. In other words, you can decide who sees it and who doesn't see it. I've given you some links to some other platforms, but you can't secure them, so it's open to everybody in the world. You can pay to upgrade them, but I don't think you want to do that. This is a right here. If you click on here, this is a tutorial on how to create an e-portfolio using Google Sites. Okay, so I'm going to click on it for a moment to take you there. Okay, so this is a very in-depth how to create a portfolio. I would ask you to please take your time with this. It's very important for you to do this and do it in a way that makes sense to you. Okay, and let me just go back. But I can also help you by just showing you a model. So clicking on this link right here will take you to a portfolio that I set up using a template. Okay, so I did not create this from scratch. I went to the Google Sites and you can search for templates. I searched for a template that would work well to create this e-portfolio. And this is the one that I am using. You can do the same thing. You can use the same template if you want. It's available to anybody. You have to change some of the items on it, but you can still use it. And so you notice here that I have these different tabs. I have one for a letter of introduction, one for your philosophy of teaching, and then I have grouped the INTAS standards into the four broad categories. If you remember correctly, when we first began looking at the standards, I did a video about unpacking the standards and explained to you that you can group the standards in these broad groups, and that's what I've done. So we have one tab for learning development. I'm going to click on it, which are for the first three standards, Standard 1, Standard 2, and Standard 3. Okay? All right. I'm going to go back here, though, just to help us think about where we began at the beginning. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is have an introduction to you and your portfolio. So it needs to be much more than what I just have here. I just have a little quick blurb. But I want yours to be more than a paragraph, but I don't want it to be this long page either. The idea is to contextualize your portfolio. Remember, this portfolio you're going to continue to add to in your education courses, even if your professor doesn't tell you to. You're going to add information to show your understanding and growth with these teaching standards. So if you take a course where you're creating a lesson plan, you're going to put it in your portfolio in the appropriate place. And then eventually when you get to student teaching, you're going to archive all your work that you've done in your courses in coursework, and then you're going to develop these standards in your student teaching for what you did in your student teaching to demonstrate your knowledge. But there has to be some capacity for building. Remember we talk about the ZPD. The work you're doing in your classes is scaffolding and building you to the capacity to be able to do this once you get to student teaching. So you're going to do a letter of introduction here. Your philosophy of teaching is going to go here, okay? This is where you will insert your philosophy of teaching. I put mine up here, but remember, mine is very different because I'm writing from a post-secondary education standpoint, okay? So mine is different, but you notice that it's not terribly long. Yours should not be terribly long either. But mine does not adhere to the criteria that I asked you to adhere to. So mine is just an example of how to put it up here. And then you're going to have the learner development, which I already showed you. You'll have content, which is standards 4 and 5, instructional practice, which are standards 6, 7, and 8, professional responsibility, which is 9 and 10, and then the technology standards, which I'm not asking you to address in this course, but it would be good for you to have a tab up here for these for future reference. Now, if you want to put your resume up here, you certainly can, but if your portfolio is public, you may just want to say supplied upon request. The same thing for your teaching credentials, okay? You can put them up there if you'd like to. I wouldn't put links that have your social security number or any kind of identifying information, but you could simply do just a little, like I have here, blurbs about what my credentials are, okay? And then you can have a miscellaneous tab for other things that you want to put in there later. Okay, let's go back now to the directions, okay? Then we'll come back. So criteria for the portfolio is just what I've shown you. A tab or a page for your introduction, a tab or page for your philosophy, a tab or page for the 11 main standards. As I said, you can group them like I did, or you can have a separate page for each one, whatever you want to do. But you're going to make sure and write out your anchor standard, okay? So when we look at the learner development, you'll see that I've written out the entire standard, okay, for each one. I'm not just putting up here standard 1 learner development. I'm writing out the standard, and you're going to do the same thing too, because you don't want to keep me guessing. I don't want to have to keep flipping through the in-task book, okay? I know these pretty well, but I still want you to write them out, okay? And then you are going to show evidence for the learning outcomes of this course. You can go back to the syllabus and look, and the standards are 2, 3, and 9. I've written them out here for you again, okay, in terms of I can get to open that up. Okay, so these are the standards that you're going to write a reflection about, okay? Each one, 2J, 2K, 2L, 2M, 3K, 3L, 30, 3R, okay? 91, 9J, 9M, 9N, 9O, okay? So for each one of those, you're going to write a little blurb about what you've done to help you reach your goals, these learning goals for this course. I'm going to just close that for a moment. Okay. So as I said here, the evidence can come from the discussion forums of the homework assignments. Okay. So you think about what you've done for work, and then you would write for 2J, I did X, and by doing this piece of work, it helped me to better understand A, B, and C. Okay. So you'll need some reflections, not just tell me what you did, but just a little bit of reflection to show your understanding. So 2, 3, and 9 are going to be gathered information from the course, from the work you've done. Now you may have done a RAPS on one of those, but that's okay, but you still have to do the reflection for those performance indicators that I indicated on this document. You'll have to include the RAPS as well, but that will be a separate piece of evidence. So 4 RAPS, and you should have one for each one of those 4 groups, okay? So I'm going to go back here. You should have one for learner development, one for content, one for instructional practice, and one for professional responsibility. That's how I set them up. So you can see here, okay? Let's see if I put one up here. I don't think I did. In any event, you will put up your wraps underneath the particular content. You can just cut and paste it. You don't have to do anything fancy to it. The reflection is already done. It's just a matter of moving it to the platform. Okay? So you'll include the 4 wraps, artifacts, and reflections. Put the whole piece of work in there. You can edit it later if you're going to use it for a professional portfolio, but for now, just put the whole thing up there. You have 4 different standards in each one of the 4 categories, one in each of the 4 categories. You will have reflections on standards 2, 3, and 9, and evidence from the work that you did in this course. Okay? If you need the documents again, they're here. Okay? Let's go back to the portfolio. I will be looking for completeness. Okay? So I will be looking for the letter of introduction, the philosophy of teaching, 1 RAPS for learner development, 1 RAPS for content, 1 RAPS for instructional practice, 1 for professional responsibility, and then I will be looking for artifacts and reflections on each of the 3 learning outcomes for this course, which are, 2, 3, and 9. Okay, and remember, as I said before, that it will not just be general and broad, but it will be addressing each one of these performance indicators, essential knowledge and critical dispositions, okay? So the teacher understands that learners bring assets for learning based on their individual experiences and so forth. You'll tell me what you did in the class that addressed this and how it helped you. Same thing for each one of these. So there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 short reflections about what you did in this course that helped you to gain knowledge of each one of these pieces of essential knowledge or critical disposition. It doesn't have to be long, very simple. Keep it simple. Tell me what you did and tell me why this is helping you to understand this, okay? You don't have to write pages about each one. Paragraph for each one is perfectly okay. But this is your self-reflection. This is your metacognitive look back at this course to help you know what you did and how you did it and how you came to understand these learning outcomes. If you don't feel you met one of these learning outcomes, then tell me so, okay? I want to know if you felt that you did not address this in a way that helped you to grow and understand this a little bit better. But I think you'll find that the work you've done over this semester, the discussion forums, the papers, the RAPs, and you can use your RAPs to help you understand this too. You could say, for this one, the safe and productive learning, for example, maybe you observed a classroom and you could say, in my RAPs for standard 3, I came to understand better, so you can use those if you want to, but I don't want you to just put a RAPs in here. I just want you to say, well, I may have addressed this in some discussion forums, but really it was the RAPs that I did for week X that really helped me to better understand this particular piece, and that's perfectly okay. I would ask you that you not use the RAPs for every single one of these, okay? I would ask you to reach deep and think about the other work you did and how that helped you to better understand. This is standards-based, proficiency-based learning, people. This is what will happen in schools when students have to meet standards. This is to help you to better understand what you learned, but also to help you better understand what it will be like for students in a classroom who have to meet standards, okay? And so how will they do that? Okay, how will they meet a standard? It's going to be up to you as a teacher to help them to know how they can meet that standard. So this is the way for you to reflect on what you did to meet the standards for you as a teacher. And I know some of you are not going into teaching, some of you are going into other professions besides the classroom, but nonetheless, these are the learning outcomes for this course, and so everybody is subject to answering these. You can answer it reflectively in your own content area, for sure. If you're in library science, you can substitute the word librarian in there because it's going to be pretty much the same thing. And as I said before, librarians really are teachers, whether they're working in a school library, a research library, they really are teachers in their own right. So these standards can apply to them as well. All right, I'm going to go back here again and just one more time, very quickly. Model for setting up the portfolio. Click on this link and you can look at the one that I did. You can walk through it. I've written in red where you need to address the learning outcomes, okay? This is in addition to your RAPs, okay? You'll have a RAPs for each one of the 4 major areas. Criteria is here. Make sure that you have followed this explicitly, please. I want to make sure that you're doing following it and doing what I'm asking you to do. Write out the standard, please. Don't just put the numbers in. Here are the standards. Again, if you need them, you should be very familiar with them by now, but they're all here anyway. So that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. You're going to begin working on this after break. The actual work of the course will be a little bit lighter after break to allow you to begin to set up your portfolio, and it is due at the end of April. That's it. Have a great afternoon.